play the audio. You ready?
I'm always ready.
The Strait is open, but the Straits have been open for a number of months already, and you just didn't know about it. You know, you as reporters.
They snuck these huge 1,000-foot tankers through the strait, and nobody saw them.
Does he know that like you can like we actually pulled it up on the show a couple weeks ago. You can pull up a live map of the straits and see exactly what ships are moving through, how many ships are moving through. I'm sorry, Trump. I think you need to check that map, bro, because
you can't hide these huge tankers. That's the most you know. I run out of words when I try to rank the most absurd, offensive things that Donald Trump has to say.
What do you think about this UFC event? It's supposed to happen on the White House lawn.
$60 million
tomorrow.
That's what I heard. We're wasting $60 million so Trump can satisfy his urge for
Who's
violence.
we though?
What?
That's from the American taxpayer?
Of course.
What?
I guess, unless it's, from conflicted of interest private donors, but I believe it is from us, the American taxpayer.
Shouldn't Paramount and the UFC be footing the bill? It's their event.
You would think.
I don't know.
I'm not sure exactly where the money is coming from. I don't think they're footing the bill. Maybe someone in our chat knows exactly where the money's coming from.
I thought the big controversy was essentially, Trump promoting a company and a media company on the White House lawn, which is a private company. Both the UFC and Paramount are private companies, right? And they're not supposed to be having events on what is supposed to be
the people's
property.
Imagine that.
And there is a lawsuit that came in at the last minute to block it, trying to make that argument. I mean, I guess it didn't work.
Probably too late to block it.
But apparently there's supposed to be thunderstorms tomorrow during the event.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Trump gets rained out.
Let me see.
Just like Trump got booed at Madison Square Garden.
There's a 30% chance of thunderstorms at 7 p.m. tomorrow.
What time is the event?
I don't know exactly. I mean, look, I'm a fan of mixed martial arts, but I think this whole thing on the White House South Lawn is pretty sickening. Again, this is supposed to be the White House South Lawn. This is the people's house. The idea that this private media company and this private, essentially, fight league gets this massive promotion through the U.S. government is, again, follow the money, right? Who's running the event? Paramount. Who now runs Paramount? The Ellisons. Who's cozy with the Ellisons? Trump.
And who is going to get a lot of the Ellisons' money? Trump, right? Or his allies. He's a big Republican donor, right?
Yeah. I hope I'm a big mixed martial arts fan. I hope it gets rained out. It doesn't look like it's going to be based off of what I looked at real quick, but I'm not sure. Yeah, someone just remember when Trump promoted Tesla?
Yes,
in front of the White House.
In front of the White House, yes. Follow the money. And apparently, according to a lot of news reports, Trump's grifting since he's become president has earned him certainly in excess of $1 billion, maybe more.
Yikes. All right, with that, we will move on to our question portion of the show. Before we do so, we have almost 600 people watching, but only 200 likes.
What?
Make sure you like the stream. It helps us a lot. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Turn on that notification bell so you know we're live. Remember that members and donators get priority on the question portion of our show.
Yeah, we're way short on donators. We really need it.
Our first.
Is that your dog sneezing?
Yeah, my dog just sneezed. We've got a big.
He's been very good though.
We got a big donation from our good friend George Politis. They say hello, and they claim that they've said before in the past that Trump might be doing this to get the oil in Iran. I mean, we always knew that it was part of the equation. The idea that he might just be like in the middle of the night, just like seizing barrels and taking them who knows where.
Yeah, maybe Trump is sailing out into the Gulf and seizing tankers.
Is this not
like Jean Lafitte and the Barataria
I was going to say, is this not piracy?
Of course it's piracy.
It's just piracy.
It's not his oil.
Right, it's just piracy done by a government rather than just an individual.
Well, this is a guy who's killing, murdering people on boats with no proof, no due process, no demonstration that they're at war with the United States. Even in one instance, they blew up 2 survivors who were clinging helplessly to wreckage. A clear crime, a crime that was committed, by the way, in World War II by a German U-boat, and a British court sentenced 2 of their commanders to death for doing exactly what was done in the Caribbean.
Right. All right.
And not to mention the deaths he's causing by slashing critical medical aid from USAID to the most vulnerable people. The Lancet, one of the world's leading scientific journals, said, over the next 30 years, unless these cuts are restored, upwards of 10 millions of people will needlessly die, including close to 5 million children.
Instead of geographic districts, some counties elect their Congress from a nationwide pool of candidates. Could that solve gerrymandering in the U.S.?
It solves gerrymandering while opening up a whole other set of problems. And that is, if you don't have districts and have total at-large elections, then whatever the majority is in the state is going to control the entire congressional delegation. You'll have no diversity whatsoever, either politically or racially, in the states.
This is from Alex Kawa. What do you think of this theory I have as to why Americans, at least most of the time, trust Republicans more than Democrats on the economy? I think it's because the GOP's economic policies are generally more short-term, such as tax cuts, which might benefit the working class in the short run, but not the long run, obviously, while Dems prioritize long-term investments that people don't notice right away.
Yeah, I think you put your finger on it. The evidence is clear. Americans do much better this is just empirical evidence, much better under Democratic than Republican administrations. But Republicans, do, first of all, have way better messaging than the Democrats. At least maybe the gap is starting to close, but for a very long time, Republicans have had way better messages. And as you say, they do tend to emphasize these short-term kinds of rewards as opposed to more long-term Democratic policies. But that's starting to shift, by the way, thanks to Donald Trump and the awful economy that he's brought. For the first time, that those polls seem to be flipping, and they're either close or maybe the Democrats slightly ahead on who's better able to handle the economy.
This is from Diane Kastner. Maine is my favorite state, so I'm very interested in the senators. Your comments regarding Plattner. I know that you just covered the primary. Oh, yeah.
We talked a lot about Plattner. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we had a whole episode
Whole
on him
show on
still.
it. Just check out
that last show. This is from Nixon's The One. Hope y'all are having a good week. I was curious about your thoughts on Hunter Biden's recent trolling on social media. I personally find his wrongdoings incomparable to the Trump kids.
I don't know what his wrongdoings incomparable means. Does that mean they're worse or not as bad? Hard to tell. I'm no Hunter Biden fan. I wish he would just go quietly into the good night. This is not someone we need to hear from. And of course, the Trump children are atrocious, engaged in the same kind of corrupt, self-serving dealing as Donald Trump, and also election deniers steeped in lies. These are not people, and they're not kids anymore. They're well-grown adults who you want to listen to one bit.
They're protesting Ivanka Trump in Albania right now because they want to develop a pristine, untouched Albanian Mediterranean island.
Yeah, isn't that great? I'm so grateful that the Trumps will have their own island. I'm sure that's going to benefit every ordinary citizen in Albania.
Ivanka Trump used to not bother me, but recently she's been really bothering me. Like, I don't know what changed. I don't know. I don't know
She's
what
always
changed.
bothered me.
Oh,
so
really? She
I
didn't
always
really
thought
used to
she was
bother
a big
me.
phony.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess so. I don't know. I just watched that interview of her talking about the island, and she's like, "Jared and I, we just saw this beautiful island," and I'm just like, "Oh my god, I
Oh
can't stand
God.
this woman." This is from the
Yeah,
Mad.
people are not getting their Medicaid. They're not getting their medical care. They're not getting their food stamps, and the Trumps are bragging about buying an island. You know, the contrast could not be stronger.
Oh, someone's saying the UFC event isn't until Sunday.
I have no idea
Let me double check. Well, maybe you should get an idea, man.
why. I don't intend to watch it
Why not?
because I already told you.
It is Sunday. I was wrong.
Sunday.
The main events start at 8 p.m. So maybe it still will rain. I don't know. This is from the Mad Hatter Forever 23. They say, while historical consensus condemns the Third Reich as a regime of genocidal war criminals, how does it compare to the German Empire with its similar imperialistic and militaristic ambitions during World War One?
The difference is that the German Empire, and I'm no expert on this, the German history, was interested in empire and expanding its domains, no different than the British imperial demands, the French, and maybe the worst imperial overlord were the Belgians. There's this whole now new scholarship showing, how horrific the Belgian rule over the Congo, particularly led by someone who once had been esteemed King Leopold of Belgium, inflicted horrific harms upon the people of the Congo. But Hitler was uniquely murderous, singling out the murder of Jews, sparking for the first time in 1944 the word genocide. And you did not have that kind of genocidal impulse, except maybe for the Belgians.
This is from member Dirty Your Dog. They say, America's judges have really rescued us from Trump's awful moves. Is there a historical analog, American or not, where the judges have challenged the leader so often? What happened in the years that followed?
Probably the best example of judges checking a president would be during Watergate. The critical decision in Watergate on which really the fate of the president hinged, perhaps, you never know, was over the Nixon tapes. And you had the unanimous court decision, Supreme Court decision, saying, we agree, that presidential privilege is real, executive privilege, but it cannot take precedence over a criminal investigation, and therefore the tapes have to be turned over to the special prosecutor. That may be the single most dramatic example of the court intervening to check a corrupt president who was threatening American democracy. And by the way,
BT Dubs.
pardon?
Go ahead.
And by the way, despite the court's long delay in dealing with this Trump immunity case, delaying so long that it was too late to do anything, the court acted in a matter of weeks in the case of the Nixon tapes.
This is from member Patrick Murray. Today marks the beginning of a super El Nino, which will kill millions of animals and drastically alter the weather around the world for almost a year. 2026 is also expected to have the hottest summer on record. When will conservatives start to take climate change seriously, even with corporate lobbyists?
Back in 2017, when I wrote my book, The Case for Impeachment, one of the grounds that I laid out for impeaching Trump was what I call a crime against humanity because of a crime against the environment, that his policies to reverse not just to stop, but to reverse efforts to deal with catastrophic climate change threatened the survival and well-being not only of all Americans, but of all people on the planet. And of course, in the 9 years since then, it's gotten worse, much worse. I do not understand why people have not awakened to this threat and risen up en masse to demand change on the part of this administration. I understand, dealing with climate change is a worldwide problem, but the United States has to be the leader. And not only are we not leading, we are throwing things in reverse, promoting the burning of the fossil fuels that lead to catastrophic climate change, while not just stopping, but killing. In one case, I think paying $1 billion to stop a wind farm and killing efforts to convert to clean, renewable sources of energy.
How might Guatemala's history have been different if Jacobo Arbenz had remained in power?
I hate, these counterfactual.
I don't even know who that is.
He is the kind of, have my soda. He is kind of the left-wing president of Guatemala that the United States overturned in the 1950s as part of its effort that, for example, also overturned the Mossad government.
I see.
In Iran, and it led to disaster, to civil wars, to genocide against the Mayan people in Guatemala. It's hard to believe that things wouldn't have been a lot better if Arbenz had remained in power. Where else are you going to get that?
You got definitely not on Jake Tapper. I'll tell you that much.
But surely on Fox News.
Well, that's a different story.
Sure.
This is from Marzim.
By the way, where else are you going to get an audience smart enough to raise that question?
That too. Is this the most political World Cup of all time? That's hard to say.
Hard to say, but certainly up there.
They've all been sort of political in their own way.
Given that they gave Trump this bogus medal.
That was so ridiculous.
Something above and beyond the normal politicization.
Yeah, true. But, like in Qatar at the last World Cup, there's allegations that they were essentially using slavery to build a lot of the stadiums and stuff. I mean, that's pretty horrific. Probably
pretty horrific.
Probably worse than just giving a prize. I mean, as ridiculous as the prize was,
Yeah.
It didn't hurt anybody necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Oh, I have got a question. This is from...
Question for Sam.
Yeah, member Beat Me by 37. They say, question for Sam. How concerned are you about this age of disinformation? And how concerned are you and will... Let me start again. How concerned are you about this age of disinfo will do to our generation in the long term? I'm 28 and worry about the insane reach of easy access, half-truths, and lies. I'm extremely concerned about it. I think essentially at this point we live in a post-fact, post-truth world. Obviously, disinformation has always existed, but it is not as easily accessible and it is not as constant as it is now. I mean, you open your phone, you scroll through TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or X or wherever, and you're just flooded with constant nonsense, essentially.
But worse than nonsense is disinformation designed to give you a biased view of the world. That's worse than nonsense.
I agree. Maybe nonsense wasn't the right word. And I don't really know what solution there is to it. I think, you do see some hope of like people just outright rejecting a lot of things online and social media. And I think people are just getting weirdly, I think people are maybe more than ever, they trust what they see online less than ever. So, often history sort of swings back.
So where then do you get the truth from?
You go back to analog and you go back to trusted sources. And, that's what I'm sort of hoping is that we'll sort of swing back a little bit and people will just sort of outright reject a lot of the things that they're seeing online. But
is AI going to make it worse?
it's already made it worse. Yeah,
already made it worse.
And these social media companies, there's plenty of criticism of them, but I think they're kind of straight up evil at this point. I mean, essentially, especially the way content works now and information works now, people give information online, people give content online. These companies become like trillionaires, like richer than the richest people who have ever existed, right? And
richer than old King Croesus?
Richer than him. Disinformation is like they're playing into the destruction of society. I really do feel that. And they're just getting richer and richer off of
Richer than Mansa Musa?
Richer than Mansa Musa.
Wow.
They're getting richer and richer off of essentially crumbling our society. And
that's pretty sad, Sam.
I think, I used to be very critical of them. I now think they're basically full on evil. And they're specifically, there's plenty of evidence of this. They're specifically designing their apps and their content to be as addictive as possible to, pull young people in and keep them attached to these phones, to these apps. I think they're just straight evil, basically.
So if you want wisdom, you got to turn to us old farts.
Right. That's why we have this show.
Yep.
Let's see. So there were some videos of Knicks fans beating up and physically assaulting Spurs fans.
Oh, that's horrific.
Yeah, that someone.
There's no place for that.
Yeah, that really sickened me, and I was really.
That is sickening.
And I find it really disappointing that people are using basketball, which is a beautiful sport and brings people together, for violence. So.
People will use any excuse for violence. I understand there's a lot of violence associated with soccer games.
Yeah, there is. Actually, one of the good things about the World Cup itself is it's not as hooligan driven as a lot of club soccer is.
Yeah.
I'm not. I like the Tottenham Hotspurs, but I don't follow club soccer that much because it's pretty toxic. I feel like club soccer, especially in Europe and South America. The U.S. no one even cares about it really. But
when I was in England, they said there's a famous saying about rugby and soccer, that rugby is a hooligan's game played by gentlemen, and soccer is a gentleman's game played by hooligans.
Oh, interesting. This is from Mr. Shoban. They say the UFC will be on the White House grounds. Can roller derby be far behind?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. Good one. Philip H. They say, do you think the Supreme Court will overturn or limit the 14th? I think they will for sure. I even placed a bet on Kalshi that they will indeed overturn it. They tend to make law out of whole cloth.
I kind of agree with the last clause. I assume when you say the 14th, which is got many, many clauses to it, I assume you mean the birthright citizenship clause, that those born in the United States, except with the exception of diplomats and invading army, but who are subject to the U.S. jurisdiction, are citizens of the U.S. And of course, Trump has tried to overturn that. Gee, I thought conservatives believed in the strict construction of the Constitution, Sam.
They don't?
And, you got to go with the plain meaning of what the Constitution says. I always thought that, but, God knows this is the exact opposite of that. Any rate, I don't think the court will go this far and abrogate birthright citizenship, although they may put some restrictions and some restraints on it, but I don't think they're going to overturn that element of the Constitution.
Did you see that there was like a giant 8647 etched into the National Mall?
I read about that, yeah. And they're now looking to arrest someone for that?
They're investigating it, yeah.
Just like I think they're still investigating the bombing of the children's school in Iran, like for months.
Well,
that's one of their great tactics. We're investigating, and then they'll never finish it, and people just get tired of it.
Well, the Trump administration will probably actually care about whoever wrote 8647.
Right, because they want to take revenge on someone.
Right, they don't care about bombing a girls' school, but they care about someone essentially making a mark in grass.
Yeah, and what happened to those who killed American citizens in Minneapolis? What happened to those
That's a great
investigations?
question.
Yeah.
I saw some video of questioning. I think was it Mark Wayne Mullen? I can't remember. And they explicitly asked, were the people who shot Preddy and Good, are they still working? And I don't. It must not have been Mullen. I can't remember exactly who it was. It might have been. Um, he gave a strange answer, like, well, it's procedure when that happens for them to be put on leave.
Yeah, a passive voice answer that
Yeah,
doesn't respond to the question.
exactly. It was kind of strange.
I'm willing to bet the first guy, the one who killed Good, is still operating. But I don't know. It's just a guess. But again, what happened to those? Remember, those are homicides.
Right.
They may not be murder, but they are homicides. They're not. They're only like 4 categories of death, right? Disease, accident, suicide, and homicide. The only issue is, are they justifiable homicides? In this case, the argument, I guess, is self-defense. But that's to be investigated. You got to come to an answer on that. You can't just let it go. Oh, we're going to commit homicides and just forget about them, which
Yeah, it
seems
is
to be the
really
case
weird.
here.
Yeah, it is really. But again, what do you expect with the Trump administration and Kash Patel and now Mark Wayne Mullen,
Right.
first Kristi Noem? They're all covering all this stuff up. Everybody
They're
knows
just going to
they
let
are.
it go until we forget about it.
That's-
We're not going to forget about it on this show. We're going to keep reminding you of the dereliction of duty and worse, of not investigating these homicides. And they are homicides.
Do we even know who shot Preddy? I mean, those guys that were attacking Preddy, they were so covered. Like,
We do not know.
they had like glasses and hats.
do not
and
know.
Like, you couldn't even tell that was a human being, let
Yeah.
alone who it was. I mean, the Renee Good guy, I think either his mask slipped or he might not have even been wearing one. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing his face. It was very obvious who it was. Who didn't give a damn that he just killed a human being. Seemed to be exulting in it, in fact. You know
Yeah.
what they call her, damn bitch or something?
It is pretty crazy that 2 Americans were just shot on the street and like nobody seems to know what's happening with the officers who shot them, and not to mention the fact that the GOP just gave what, billions more dollars.
$70 billion to put more thugs on our streets.
That's crazy.
And they were also supposed to be the Republicans, the leaders of limited government.
Yeah, don't tread on me. What happened to
Yeah.
that? They just created the GOP under the Trump 2.0 has literally created the biggest federal police force ever,
Ever, by
Yeah.
far.
especially by money. I mean,
Yeah. And in terms of officers on the street,
oh, okay.
they're even more than the FBI. The FBI as a whole may be larger, but in terms of presence on the streets, this is the biggest police force in the history of the country. And remember, who are they supposed to be rounding up?
The worst of the worst.
Yes. And it turns out over 70% of those they round up have no criminal conviction of any kind. And most of the rest have minor issues like driving with a broken taillight. A tiny percentage are serious criminals. And a lot of them are people who, have been living here for a long time, contributing to our economy, paying taxes. But in a typical Trump sleight of hand, they said, oh, they're all criminals
Right.
because they violated the immigration laws,
Right.
which has nothing to do with their being the worst of the worst.
Of course not.
All right, how much time we have?
We can end here if you want.
Are there any more questions?
We're out of questions.
All right, this is a good time to end then.
I want to give a shout out to some donators: Free Throw Guy, Michael Sheffield, Turbid TG, Julie Han, Hubes. Thank you all for your donations. We truly appreciate that. Dad, what are your final words to the people?
If you want to take at face value what Trump tells you, I'll sell you my big bridge in Brooklyn twice.
Really?
Yes.
No, Trump. No, he told us the war's over. He told us today.
Yeah, he told us that, I think 3 months ago, too.
Oh.
And watch out for these Trump fake outs. And it just sickens me that the spineless Democrats falling for it again.
All right, folks. We will see you. What is it? Thursday. We'll see you next week. Thank you and good night. Go Knicks. Say it. You got to say it too.
Go Knicks! 53 years
53 years what?
since they won the championship.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.